A chicken pecks at the dirt, freezes, tilts its head, and then sprints across the yard on two powerful legs. Watch it with the sound off and forget the farm for a second. The jerky head movements, clawed feet, scaly lower legs, and sudden bursts of aggression do not look entirely harmless. There is a reason for that. The dinosaur age did not end completely 66 million years ago. One branch survived, changed, spread across the planet, and now sometimes steals food from your picnic. Chickens are often described as relatives of dinosaurs. That is true, but it is almost too cautious. In modern biological classification, all birds are dinosaurs. More specifically, they belong to the theropod dinosaur lineage, the same broad group that included famous meat-eaters such as Tyrannosaurus and Velociraptor. The giant non-avian dinosaurs are gone. The avian dinosaurs are still here. This does not mean a Tyrannosaurus slowly shrank, grew a comb, and became a chicken. Evolution does not work like a straight chain. It branches. Chickens and Tyrannosaurus share ancient theropod ancestors, while the bird line split away long before Tyrannosaurus rex appeared. Every living bird, from a pigeon to an eagle, is part of that surviving branch. A chicken is not uniquely the closest bird to T-Rex. All modern birds are separated from it by the same basic branching event. Put Tyrannosaurus, Stegosaurus, and a chicken on the same family tree, though, and the result feels wrong at first. Tyrannosaurus and the chicken share a more recent common ancestor with each other than either shares with Stegosaurus. Tyrannosaurus was a theropod. Stegosaurus belonged to a different major dinosaur branch. So the enormous predator is, in evolutionary terms, closer to the bird in a coop than to the plate-backed dinosaur standing beside it in toy sets. The evidence is not based on one dramatic fossil. It comes from thousands of details that line up. Theropod dinosaurs walked on two legs. Many had hollow or partly hollow bones. Their feet, hips, wrists, shoulders, and necks changed over time in directions seen in early birds. The furcula, better known as the wishbone, existed in many non-avian theropods. Fossils also show nesting behavior, eggs arranged in organized patterns, and adults positioned over nests in poses that look strikingly bird-like. In a limestone quarry in Germany, Archaeopteryx left one of the most famous clues. It lived about 150 million years ago and carried a messy mix of features. It had feathers and wings, but also teeth, clawed fingers, and a long bony tail. Archaeopteryx was not simply half dinosaur, half bird, and scientists still debate exactly where it sits near the base of the bird family tree. The useful part is the combination. Features we once separated into two neat boxes were already mixed inside one animal. Then came the feathered dinosaurs from China. Fossils of animals such as Microraptor and Anchiornis preserved feathers in astonishing detail. Some had long flight feathers on their limbs. Others were covered in simpler feather-like structures that were probably useful for insulation, display, camouflage, or protecting eggs. Feathers did not appear one morning because an animal needed to fly. They evolved earlier and were repurposed. Flight came later, through a long sequence that still has gaps and arguments around. A supermarket chicken wing looks ordinary until you compare the bones. The upper arm contains a humerus. Below it sit the radius and ulna. The hand bones are reduced and fused, but the whole structure is a modified dinosaur forelimb. The feathers attach to that arm, turning it into a wing. On the other end, the chicken balances over two hind limbs, walks on its toes, and carries a shortened tail ending in fused vertebrae called the pygostyle. The long, muscular tail of its ancestors is mostly gone, but the body plan was remodeled rather than replaced. In 2014, researchers tried a very physical experiment. They raised chickens wearing artificial tails that shifted the animal's center of mass backward. The tails weighed about 15% of each bird's body mass. As the chickens adjusted, their leg posture and movement changed in ways that offered clues about how small non-avian theropods may have stood and walked. It was not a perfect dinosaur reconstruction. A plastic tail on a living chicken cannot recreate an extinct animal's muscles, nerves, and proportions. Still, it showed how much one missing body part can change the entire gait. That sounds minor, but it matters. A chicken embryo carries another kind of evidence. Early in development, its face is built by genetic signaling systems shared with other vertebrates. In a 2015 experiment, scientists altered signaling involving FGF and WNT pathways in chicken embryos. The developing facial bones became less like a modern fused beak and more like the paired snout structure of ancestral reptiles and dinosaurs. The embryos were not hatched, and no one created a pet dino chicken. The experiment tested how changes in development could help produce a major evolutionary transition. You can see the same principle in a boring way too. Evolution usually modifies existing parts. A wrist becomes more flexible. Fingers reduce and fuse. A tail shortens. Feathers change shape. The center of mass moves forward. None of those steps has to produce a modern bird by itself. Over tens of millions of years, however, small changes accumulate in a lineage that is also splitting into new species. The result can look so different that people give the descendants a completely new everyday name and forget where they came from. Feathers are the most obvious reminder. Some non-avian theropods had simple filament-like coverings. Others had complex veined feathers. Microraptor even preserves evidence connected with feather replacement, or molting. Modern birds still replace worn feathers because a damaged mature feather cannot repair itself. The feather falls out, and a new one grows. A chicken leaving loose feathers beside a fence is performing a maintenance routine with roots deep in dinosaur evolution. The breathing system carries older machinery too. Birds use rigid lungs connected to air sacs that move air through the respiratory system efficiently. Fossilized bones with air-filled spaces indicate that parts of this system evolved among theropod dinosaurs before modern birds existed. We cannot inspect a living dinosaur lung from the Cretaceous, obviously, and the full soft tissue arrangement is reconstructed from bones and comparisons. But the pattern is strong enough to show that avian breathing did not appear from nowhere. 66 million years ago, the Chicxulub impact triggered a global catastrophe. Dust, soot, and other material reduced sunlight, food webs collapsed, and every non-avian dinosaur lineage disappeared. Many early bird groups vanished as well. That last part is easy to miss. Birds did not sail through the extinction untouched. The survivors were a limited set of avian lineages, and the exact reasons they made it are still debated. Small body size probably helped. Flexible behavior may have helped. Some survivors may have been able to live on seeds and other durable food when fresh vegetation and prey became scarce. Ground-dwelling habits may also have mattered in landscapes where forests were devastated. There is no single proven survival trick that explains every bird lineage. Fine, but the broad result is clear. A few avian dinosaurs crossed the boundary, while every known non-avian dinosaur did not. After the extinction, the surviving birds spread into emptied ecological roles. Over time, they produced swimmers, divers, runners, scavengers, hunters, nectar feeders, and animals that spend most of their lives over open ocean. Modern genomic studies still struggle to resolve some of the earliest branches because several major bird groups diversified rapidly around the end of the Cretaceous and the beginning of the Paleogene. The family tree exploded into many short branches. That gets messy fast. The domestic chicken arrived much later. It descends mainly from the red jungle fowl of South and Southeast Asia, shaped by human breeding into animals selected for eggs, meat, appearance, fighting, or companionship. Domestication changed its size, growth, color, and behavior. It did not erase the older anatomy. Under the feathers is a lightweight theropod skeleton. Inside the egg, a dinosaur developmental program builds a bird. Watch a hen scratch the soil. One foot rakes backward, leaves and dirt scatter, and the head darts down to inspect whatever has been exposed. Watch a rooster turn sideways, lower a wing, or launch itself feet first during a fight. Behavior does not fossilize neatly. so we should not pretend every chicken movement is a direct recording of Tyrannosaurus behavior. Not always, of course. But birds are the only living animals that let researchers test dinosaur-related questions using muscles, balance, breathing, feathers, eggs, and development in a functioning body. The phrase, "dinosaurs went extinct," is therefore useful only with one missing word. Non-avian dinosaurs went extinct. The rest survived as birds. They became smaller, more specialized, and often so familiar that we stop seeing how extraordinary they are. We put them in cages, scatter grain in front of them, order them for dinner, and complain when they wake us before sunrise. So the next time a chicken stares at you with one eye, remember what you are looking at. Not a creature that merely resembles a dinosaur, not a failed echo of a vanished world. It is one twig on the dinosaur family tree, still alive after 150 million years of feathered evolution and 66 million years beyond the asteroid. The dinosaurs are still here. We just call them birds.
Thanks for watching! If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. See you in the next one!